Atkins is going to talk to you about why that's so. Ryan, come on up. Ryan, thank you.
Absolutely. This is a little different from the classroom where I usually stand right about now. I have never not been a gun owner. On the day I was born in 1972, my father bought me a Beretta 28 gauge over and under with a gold trigger. He bought that from a gun store that was owned by my grandfather and my great uncle. Over the next 40 years, I have added several rifles and shotguns to my collection. I still use them regularly in the fall and the winter as a hunter. I take my 8-year-old son with me now, and I teach him how to handle, enjoy, and respect guns as my father did me. I'm comfortable with, around, and talking about guns. I expect to use them for the rest of my life. Now, as I understand it, the bill that passed the Senate yesterday has at its core 3 main provisions: a ban on certain military-style assault weapons, a new licensing requirement for the purchase of handguns, and a limit on the size of magazines. Now, this narrows the scope of what guns can be bought and sold in Maryland, and it places new restrictions on how other weapons can be purchased. Unlike the opposition, however, I do not see this as a contraction of my rights. I can and intend to continue to own guns. The argument can be made by some that this is a first step toward a confiscation of all guns. This is a specious argument. The Constitution guarantees that I will forever have the right to keep and bear arms. It makes no mention of a Claridge high-tech C9 carbine. Nowhere can I find a discussion of the Feather or a Dragunov or a Bushmaster. I am proud of my heritage as a gun owner and a hunter. I enjoy spending time in the woods with my son. I want him to know and respect the traditions of his family. I will probably give him my guns when I am no longer able or interested in using them. I expect that he may buy more guns when he grows up. This legislation in no way affects my expectation. He does not need more than 10 rounds in his magazine. I will teach my son to shoot better than that. If he serves in the military, as countless members of his family have, I am sure he will be issued a fitting weapon. For now, a 12 gauge works quite nicely. If he chooses to purchase a handgun, I hope that he undergoes an exhaustive background check. Not because I don't trust my son, but because that will mean that everyone else who is buying one will be doing the same. Now, neither of my grandfathers attended college, but both would often speak to me about the importance of common sense. One of them talked to me about how there were 2 kinds of smart: book smart, and the kind of smart that tells you got to come in out of the rain. Some things, he told me, you'd have to learn, but others you just know. Now, there are many intelligent men and women in the building behind me. They have studied and they have learned more than I am ever likely to know. But here's something that I, and I hope that they as well, do just know. We need this bill. We need common sense gun legislation right now. Now, I'm also a school teacher. I've worked at several schools in and around Baltimore. My students have been affected by the epidemic of gun violence in my city. One was killed in a drug-related shooting. Another is currently incarcerated for murder. I have no idea if this current legislation would have saved either of them. I do know that the time to sit back and do nothing is long past. And as a gun owner, I do not feel threatened by the proposed legislation. I feel threatened by the lack of it. Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, big hand for Ryan. So, ladies and gentlemen, if anybody ever tells you gun owners oppose this, tell them you heard from Ryan Hopkins. If they do not. Ladies and gentlemen, it's my pleasure to introduce to you now another great public health leader, one of the top public health leaders not only in this state but in this whole country, who has expanded